we're going to use the pen tool to make a path that will ultimately turn into marching ants, and we're going to make basically a copy of this little toy spaceship. And our file starts us off with basically points of note where we want to drop anchor points and where we want to draw handle points as well. Okay, now when I showed you the cursive writing thing, I showed you basically post-editing. So I drew what I drew first, then I went back and redid the work. Here, this one actually does kind of a pre-editing. So I'm going to show you how this works. Now, the first anchor point here, I'll make sure I'm setting to path. Oh, by the way, the book says turn this thing on, auto add delete, and it also says turn on the rubber band. I'm not a fan of the rubber band. You can try it. It's just a visual thing that helps you, I suppose it helps you visualize where your rubber band is going to go, or your path. I find it really kind of unnecessary. So here's how this goes. So I'm going to do a plain old vanilla click here, which is essentially a corner point. And you can kind of see the anchor point that shows up here. Now here is a little bit different. This is where we're going to drop the anchor point, but I'm going to pull out a handle to this red point over here. Right about there. And what I'm looking to do is to keep the rubber band, the segment from A to B, inside the spaceship just a little bit. Okay? Because ultimately we're going to be cutting this out of its background. Now, the next thing here is going to be clicking and dragging from C to this C handle thing over here. And it's not going to look right because what's happening is this handle coming off of this anchor point is going to influence what this shape looks like. So let's just try it out and I'll show you what it looks like. So we'll click and drag to that point. And you'll see that the segment from B to C is obviously cutting in way too far onto the ship. Okay, so we're going to back up a little bit. Command Z, undo that. And what I'm going to do is to delete this handle. Okay, this is what I'm talking about when I said editing before we're actually finished. So I'm going to hold down the Option key. Obviously that's going to be Alt on the Windows. And I'm going to click on this anchor point. And that makes that handle go away. So essentially this is kind of like a curve point coming in, but it's a corner point going out from here to C. And I'll drag that out to the handle. And now that looks really great. It just hugs right along the shape of the ship, doesn't it? So we're going to keep on doing that in certain locations, if I can remember where they are. So D to D looks pretty good. E to E goes pretty well as well. F does not have a point, so this is going to be just a plain old vanilla click. And we'll take G out here. And that also does nicely along the edge of the ship. And this one I believe we're going to start doing a lot more cutting of the handles. Okay, so I'm going to cut this one out. So hold on to the control key, the Option key, and click on that one. And then I goes out to here. So I'll pull this one and pull the handle out there. And that segment from H to I does a nice job around the engine over there. I believe I have to turn this one off as well and go from J to J. That's okay. I'm going to delete that and go K to K. Also looks good. Deleting that extra handle. Let's see. L does have a secondary point, so I will click and drag from here to here. And that wraps around the, I guess that's fire, I suppose. And I think I have to cut this one off as well. M has a point as well. That goes out there nicely. I'm not sure if N needs one. Let's see what this looks like. I'll just try it without cutting off the M handle. And the answer is, oh, that's way bad. Undo, and I will kill that extra handle there. And now we'll go N to N. Does a nice job. O is vanilla. It's a corner point. P is a corner point. Q is a curve point, so I'll drag this one out to the Q handle point. And then R is also a corner point, vanilla click, as well as S. And then when I go back to just do the A, actually I have to drag this one out to the final point here. So it is closing up the shape. And I'll drag this out here. And it's not it's not quite perfect, but I can fudge a little bit, and I'll just kind of eye it up. And that's how you do that. So we've made a first path. So we'll call this spaceship path. Can't remember how to spell. There we go. And I will turn this off. What I want to do now is make a path here, but there's another way to approach this. I will go to the magic wand and set my tolerance for 32, which is already there. And let's make sure that I'm on the right layer. No, I can turn off this this template here for all the letters. I don't need that any longer. And I'll click on layer 1 so that when I choose to use the magic wand tool, it grabs pretty much everything. I might hit the shift key and hit this extra green stuff down here. And that does a nice job. Now the neat thing is, in the paths area, I can go to this guy here. I'm sorry, that's not the right one. It's this one here that says make work path from selection. And look at that. It makes a work path based on my marching ants. And I will relabel this as fin. And there we go. So now what we want to do is we want to apply this as marching ants. And there's a couple ways you can do this. Now, I'm sure you've seen when we were doing alpha channels, there was a way to drag your alpha channel down and turn it into marching ants. Similar kind of a thing here. I could take Spaceship. Did I misspell Spaceship? I sure did. And I can drop it on this guy down here that looks like marching ants. The book wants us to walk through a different thing, so I'll do that. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. I'll click on Spaceship or Spaceship and go to Make Selection. And so this is going to be a new selection. So it does the same thing. But now what I can do is I can go click on this fin deal. And I can go back to Make Selection. And what I want to do is to subtract the fin from the current selection. So I'll subtract. And then hit OK. And now it's actually a subtraction from what's in there. And let's go back to layers for a minute. So now what I'm going to do is do this thing called layer via copy. So what it does is it takes whatever is selected, and by the way, get to know and love this keyboard shortcut, Command J on Mac, Control J on Windows. Same thing. So when you have a selection, it will take that and will make a new layer out of it, and it'll just hold what is in selection. Okay, now you know me, I would much rather that you learn how to do the layer mask, but this is, part of the chapter, so we're going to go this way. Let's open the next file, which is a landscape file. So this is, let's see, no, not lesson 9. We're going to go to landscape. And we'll click open. Okay, and we'll have to, of course, arrange our files so we can get to them. And I'll zoom out a little on each of these. Good. And all I'm going to do is drag layer 2 into our scene. I'll drop this over here, and there's our spaceship. I'll use my move tool and kind of move it around a little bit. Actually, I'm going to rotate this a bit. We're going to go, keep your eye on this number over here. We're going to rotate this by about -12 degrees. So it gives it a little bit of a, counterclockwise action. So right about there. And we'll tell it we're done.